Welcome back, everyone. This is the weekly performance report. Noticeable activities over the last week. I bought SMST and BAK. Brascom, as I called back. And then SMST is a 2 times inverse MicroStrategy vehicle. And I sold SMST, the MicroStrategy vehicle, and I sold Tidewater. Sadness, I know. Yes, I sold Tidewater after being up 100% on it. I completely round tripped it and got out at a small loss. I put the money into SMST and I made 20% in a single day. Now, that is not a brag. That, in part, I would say, definitely has to be attributed to luck. But nonetheless, it made me more, that amount of money made me more than, well, Tidewater lost me a lot, but I guess the funny thing is you could say when it's all said and done between the Tidewater and SMST, I'm actually up on the position with, I guess you could say, an annualized rate of 10%, which is still underperforming the benchmark, but nonetheless. So I made 20% on that, I sold it. The MicroStrategy story has gotten ridiculous. I lack the courage of conviction to put on a long-term short, but that doesn't mean I won't tactically trade around it. Hell, with the bulk of my portfolio doing poorly, it's the only reason I ended the week positive. What am I talking about? What's this one? Oh, here we go. MicroStrategy is the most profitable company in the world with a forward PE of less than 1. Here are the numbers. $500 million of profit a day per sailor. There's a beautiful interview if you want to see what mental retardation looks like and, I don't know, lack of fiduciary responsibility in communicating to your shareholders. But here are the numbers. 500 million of profit a day per sailor times 20 trading days a month equals 10 billion a month. 10 billion a month times 12 months is $120 billion a year in forward earnings for MSTR. Which is hilarious because this guy's not trolling the best I can tell either, because that 500 million of profit in this case is the accumulation of Bitcoin or the spread off of the Bitcoin, or so it's asset accumulation. So you could say, if a balance sheet had $1 of assets and then the next day you had $1 million, you probably would revalue the enterprise value and or the market cap of the company, and fair enough. So, but that's not profit and it's not earnings, and it's only earnings when you sell the Bitcoin. And then even if you're somehow managing that Bitcoin for someone else and getting a management fee, that still would be a small fraction of the increased assets. Nonetheless, let me stop interrupting this and let me just show you the, well, like I said, mental, the reckless, careless ineptness. I don't. There's a lot of words to describe this. 500 million of profit a day per sailor times 20 trading days a month equals $10 billion a month. 10 billion a month times 12 months is 120 billion a year in forward earnings for MicroStrategy. Yeah. Apple annual earnings is 94 billion, market cap of 3.4 trillion. Microsoft annual earnings is 90 billion with a market cap of 3 trillion. MicroStrategy market cap 95 billion. So, MicroStrategy forward PE is less than 1 at about 0.8. So you can buy the most profitable company in the world right now at a forward PE of 0.8. Actually, I should follow this guy. Yet again, if he's trolling, bravo. The problem is I did look at his comment section. I do recall that. And a lot of people are on board, unless there's just more bots and more trolling. And who knows how deep it goes, but nonetheless. And then here's another banger. And this one isn't necessarily wrong. This is how perverse incentives and such things work. You're a credit fund manager A. Your friend manager B tells you about how he owns these magic MicroStrategy converts, and it's basically made his entire year. Manager A pulls up his Bloomberg, can't believe that there's a credit asset that is up 130% year to date. Manager A is bewildered, thinks it's value too rich because his Excel sheet says so, nurses his ego. I like the subtext in this. Beautiful. Manager C, who is even earlier than Manager B, secures a hot allocation on the next refi and can now play the cap structure arb that even Manager B can't. 2025 secured. Soon Manager D2Z is loading up and now you're underperforming your peers. Your largest investor calls, complains, and asks, why are you missing out? You say, its valuation is simply too rich. Investor shakes his head, says wisely, my friend, MicroStrategy is a macro strategy. He redeems. Too long didn't read. This is the structural bid of the MicroStrategy complex you are up against. It's not price, it's not value, it's not rationale. It's the investment management industry, benchmarks, it's emotional. It's funny, it's not rational, and yet he just rationally explained to you what it is, superficially. So that's funny. Oh, don't be Manager A. So, like, what's the implicit message of that? Nonetheless, the hype around MicroStrategy was overdone. But that doesn't mean that it's done going up. It had a nice 25% pullback. Where it goes from here is anybody's guess. On to Tidewater. Tidewater is short cycle, meaning that its contracts renew quicker than the drilling rigs do. This is both true to the upside and the downside. They've been able to capture leading edge day rates on a 9-month basis, more or less, while the rigs are often on a multi-year basis. That, in large part, is why Tidewater stock has outperformed the drilling rigs. If offshore truly is a 2026 story, I'm not interested in being exposed to shorter duration contracts for the next year. Although, I suspect they'll clear up some debt covenants and perhaps start buying back shares next year. I still have all of my Valaris at roughly 11% of my portfolio. Also, I'd like to note, this is normally when people would be buying Tidewater, not selling it. I round-tripped it, cut my losses with a small loss, and moving on. And perhaps in a year's time, I'd be like, oh boy, I sold the bottom. And perhaps because a lot of tax loss selling isn't in the last week of December. I mean, people's on Christmas break and stuff last week of December, and it's not the second to last week of December, really. Now, there might be a few tidying up things here and there, but much of tax loss selling is November. And guess what month just ended? That's right, November. So it actually could be the bottom. And I'm going to rotate that capital into other things and ask myself, why did I do that? I hope not, but it could happen. Fair enough. So with that said, I also bought Braskem. If you're interested in why, here's the link in this article, or you can watch the most recent video I've posted, other than this one, obviously. I ended the week up 0.3%, and then, oh my God, yet again, for whatever reason, where I write this stuff and then transfer it over to Substack, it does not transfer my monthly performance compared to the S&P as well as year-to-date performance. And then so I have to manually transfer that independently of everything else to Substack. And for the sake of this video, it doesn't have it. I think I increased my year-to-date performance from October to November by like 10 basis points. I think it's like 13.88. For some reason, I'm going to say 13.88% year-to-date. And then the S&P's up like 27 point something percent year-to-date, almost 28. So I have no expectation of outperforming the market this year. And yeah, I think with that said, that's about all I have there. So thank you for watching. And until next time.